Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? You're reading all of the books, you're following all of the advice, yet something still feels off in your parenting. You wonder why parenting is feeling so heavy when it's supposed to feel natural, right? Do you feel the pressure to do more when what you really need is permission to do less? If that sounds familiar, you're not failing, and nothing is wrong with you. Welcome to Nature to Nurture, the podcast where we talk about raising healthy families by returning to what has always supported children best: connection, community, and nature. I'm Tiffany, a mother of twins, an early childhood advocate, and a family and early childhood educator. This is a space where we focus on small, meaningful shifts, on connection over control, on rhythm over rigidity, and on presence over performance, so that families can feel more supported, grounded, and confident in the way that they're raising their children. As you listen today, I invite you to take this episode with you, step outside, go for a walk, breathe in some fresh air, and let this conversation meet you exactly where you are. Let's dive in. Real quick, before we begin, if these words are landing for you, go ahead and hit that follow button. It's the easiest way to make sure that you don't miss the small but powerful insights that support your children, yourself, and the way that you want to show up. I am so excited to be back in this space after taking nearly a year off from recording any podcast episodes. I needed that pause. I needed to reflect and to focus on my boundaries, to step fully into intention. I am a busy woman. I have a cleaning business. I have twins that are now almost 12 years old, which is crazy. They're in middle school. I work for a nonprofit. I also support my husband with his construction business and the other roles that we do in community. So I needed some space. I needed that pause, like I said. And during that time, I did a lot of reflecting and thinking about how we care for our children, how we care for ourselves, and how we care for our communities. I'm really excited to share with you what I've learned and the practical ways that you can embody some of these practices too. You see, I think that a lot of parents carry this quiet pressure, especially parents, but really all caregivers, even those that are working in childcare centers, as a nanny, grandparents, etc., but especially moms. We are intentional and informed. We know what to do, and we're trying to do the right thing. We know how important early childhood is. So when we're tired, it feels like, we have to do this because it's so important, but we're exhausted, right? The stakes are impossibly high. And what I've had to learn and relearn, and I will probably continue to learn this, is that child development isn't fragile in the way that we've been taught to believe. It doesn't collapse just because you have had a hard day or because the kids had a hard day. It doesn't disappear because you needed some quiet and you escaped to the bathroom, or because screens hopped out while you were trying to get some work done, or because dinner ended up being the drive-thru. You see, children are developing through relationships, through rhythm, and through repair. It's not through having a perfect childhood. And when I actually let that truth land in my body, not just in my mind, everything got easier. If you're listening to this while you're feeling tired, touched out, behind, this episode is not asking you to fix anything. It's here to simply remind you that you already know what matters. Some morning it hits me in the smallest spaces. In the car, on the way to school, for example, is our hotspot. I can remember quite a few mornings driving the kids, and they were arguing over something little. Probably a chore. Might be who got to sit in the front seat. Who knows? Music was playing, and as they're arguing, I can feel my chest tightening with the tension. I try to stay calm, but I snap. My voice gets louder than I want. My hands are both tight, squeezing the wheel, and I immediately feel that familiar mix of feeling super frustrated that they're arguing and also guilt. Guilt washing over me. You see, I love my kids fiercely, and I want to guide them. I want to protect them. I want to connect with them. But in that moment, I felt completely overwhelmed. I felt like I was not enough to be able to figure out how to solve this. Mornings like that, after yelling and apologies, it always hits me. I realize something super important. It's not over. I didn't ruin their childhood. It doesn't collapse just because we had a hard moment. Although I did feel that way at the time. You see, children don't need perfection. They need presence, they need repair, and they need someone who's paying attention and responding to them. Even when we're exhausted, even when we explode, we are there and we are responding. When these times happen, I like to come back to 3 simple keys of childhood development that I can rely on when my energy is low, when I'm feeling overwhelmed and exhausted, but I still want to carry on and do the best for my kids. These are tips that you too can use on those days when you're feeling tired. One of the key principles of childhood development is that child development is built through relationships. You see, children develop emotionally, socially, and cognitively all through their relationships with caregivers and peers. Caregivers including their parents, but also those other trusted caregivers that are in their circle. At age 3, the brain is already about 80 to 85% of its adult size, and it's being shaped primarily by, ding, 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 relationships. Why? Because a child's brain grows best when they are feeling safe, when they feel seen, when they are being responded to. This does not mean when everything is optimal, when everything is perfect. Let's talk a little bit about what is serve and return. Serve and return relationships are the most critical factor in early brain development. You will hear me referring to this as responsive caregiving at times, and also, again, as that serve and return. What does that even mean? Let's talk about it. I want you to think about being in a tennis game, right? When you have a tennis game, you serve the ball to the other person, ding, hit it with your paddle, it bounces, and they, ding, respond back and hit the paddle. And it passes again, it's back in your cart, ding, you hit it back. That is essentially the serve and return. Now, children, you see, they're serving all the time. They are consistently bidding for your attention. A serve isn't just talking. It could be when a child gives you a look, when a baby makes a sound, or a child, or a teenager for that matter, when there's a movement, a question, even when a child is having a big emotion. Those are all serves. When a child is reaching out in any way, and an adult responds with attention, with warmth, and with words, that's a return. When your child shows you something, they ask you a question, they melt down, they're wanting to be next to you and sit in your lap, that's a serve. And your response, that's the return. The return doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be playful. It doesn't have to be long. It just needs to be responsive and attuned. Looking up, naming what you see, offering a hug, or saying, I see you. That's all counting as a return. I'm going to give you an example that I love. This is something that I have done a ton as a parent. I've done it a ton as a caregiver when I was in my preschool, and I have taught other parents to do it. And I was with a lovely friend of mine the other day who I taught her daughter, and I saw her do this. Her daughter was bidding for her attention, and we were having a conversation, a busy business conversation. And her daughter came and put her hand on her lap to get her attention, as we've been showing them, I want you. And rather than immediately looking at her and responding, my friend was able to put her hand on top of her daughter's hand, saying, I see you, I know you're here, and I'll get to you as soon as I'm done talking. And as soon as we finished that little conversation, she paused, looked at her daughter, and completed that return. That's one little example, one little interaction that you can do that helps to build that back and forth in the brain, that helps to build that safety, that security, that sense of being seen. Each serve and return strengthens every neural connection related to emotional regulation, communication, and learning. It's these small moments that are literally wiring the brain for safety and connection. On tired days, I remind myself that a moment of connection still counts. Sitting next to my kids, even if I'm exhausted and we're not doing anything, just sitting there next to each other, naming a feeling, letting them know what's going on with me, repairing a short fuse if I've been frustrated, grumpy, tired, exhausted, worried, and reacted towards them. Those moments when I go and I apologize and I repair, they don't make up for what I've done, but they are part of the development. And you don't have to respond to every serve. What matters is that it happens most of the time over a long period of time. Repair counts. Coming back after you missed a moment is still serve and return. Another example that just came to the top of my mind is with my son. I could see when he needed attention, and it was hard for me to take the action at the time. This is something that I had to work on for a number of months when he was young, and his energy would go up. He would start becoming more active and, I thought, misbehaving, right? What is he doing? Well, clearly he's trying to get my attention. And oftentimes I would react not with a positive return. And so I had to teach myself, number one, how to recognize that he was bidding for my attention and give him the attention he was seeking, which literally could be a hand on his back. He wanted some physical attention in a nice, gentle way, something that was calming and helping him to regulate. And sometimes I missed it. Sometimes I missed the serve that he was wanting my attention instead. I got frustrated and I had to reflect later, come back and apologize. Not just apologize, but give him that time that I missed. Come back and give him that attention. If you have the opportunity for connection, even briefly, savor it. This is where development is happening. Next, let's talk about regulation. Regulation is the foundation. A dysregulated nervous system, yours or your child's, can't access learning, cooperation, or emotional skills. When a child is overwhelmed, their brain literally cannot access learning. Same probably goes for adults. The part of the brain that's responsible for listening and reasoning goes offline. You might hear people say their lid is flipped. Literally, that front part of their brain is flipped open, is like, I'm not here. I'm not connected. Sorry. That's why regulation has to come before behavior or teaching. It is biology. It is not willpower. When stress is high, the brain has shifted into survival mode. No lesson or strategy is going to land there. That prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's responsible for that learning, that impulse control, that reasoning, it's not connected. Chronic stress without enough of these relational supports or buffers can elevate your cortisol levels and your children's, and it'll interfere with memory, with continued emotional regulation, and with attention and learning. So you might ask, how do I do this? In my home, what this looks like is lowering my expectations of behavior instead of raising my voice. It means stepping outside and turning off the background noise and letting go of all of the demands so that I can breathe again. This isn't me giving up. It is supporting my development at the root. You see, if my lid is flipped, if I do not have my prefrontal cortex helping me out, I'm not going to make a good choice. So I literally have to pause and gather myself. Sometimes it's just close your eyes, take 3 breaths, take 1 breath for 5 seconds, whatever it may be, open your eyes, and you're ready to deal with the situation because you say, I'm thinking, I'm not going to be acting in that survival state. And I want to remind you, if your lid flips, it's okay. You're not failing when things fall apart. You're noticing when regulation is needed. This is something really important that you can model to your kids and that you can teach them. So first, work on regulating yourself. Take yourself outside and take a deep breath, or a deep break, both. Go into the bathroom and close the door if that feels safer. And then come back in and help your child to do the same thing before teaching, before doing the lesson, before doing any kind of reasoning. Help them to regulate and get back to center and make sure that their prefrontal cortex is calm and they're not in that survival state. Take some deep breaths with them. I have a few other podcasts on co-regulation and self-regulation I encourage you to check out. There is a ton online, and I will try to get you some more here soon as well. But we're going to jump into the next topic, the next big point I want you to remember. And it's super simple. It is that simplicity supports growth. Children don't need a ton. I keep on saying it. They don't need constant instruction and enrichment or a ton of structure to thrive. In fact, research shows time and again that unstructured play is one of the most excellent supports for executive functioning, for creativity, for emotional resilience, and problem-solving skills. Why? Well, it's simple because their brains are integrating and learning through this play, through the repetition, through the rest, and especially when they're connected to nature. A child's brain needs space to integrate what they've learned. They need place to explore the learnings, and everything in a child's early life is learning. When we provide unstructured play, especially outdoors, it is supporting emotional regulation and brain development in ways that structured activities inside simply cannot. And so you might ask, how do I do that? Some of the most regulating days that I can recall are not days where I had everything figured out and lined up for my kids and we had a packed schedule. Even if it was a packed schedule at home, definitely that one was not the best if we were stuck inside. The days that were the smoothest, the best days were the days where we literally had almost our entire day outdoors, where we are sharing our meals and just having time for true connection. Simple doesn't mean that it has to be lazy. Simple means that it's actually developmentally aligned. When I stop trying to do everything and let my children just settle, and I'm able to settle, the memories, the results are amazing. One of the biggest myths in parenting is that more input will give you better outcomes. But development actually thrives on integration more than intensity. If you are tired, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It means that you're human. We've gone over a lot of different things in this episode, and so I just want to give you a quick recap. And I want you to remember these 3 points. Your relationship with your child is the most powerful developmental tool that you have in your toolbox. Foster that relationship, that connection. Second, regulation always comes before the behavior or the learning. We want to make sure that we get to a calm, centered state before we're instructing, and we also want to help our children to get to that calm state too. Regulation is a skill. It's not something that you just know. And the last one, I want you to remember to slow down and simplify what you're doing. When you slow down and you do simple actions, purposeful actions, this supports development more than doing, and packing your schedule full of activities and supports. You don't need to sign your child up for all of the classes. You don't need to show up for every single activity in the community. You don't need to make the perfect meals. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to add anything to be a good parent. Sometimes the most supportive thing that you can do for your child is to actually do less. Before we move on with your day, I invite you to pause and reflect on this question. Where can you support your child's development today by doing less, not more? Maybe it's lowering one expectation, or choosing to connect over correct, or letting be something more simple. If it feels supportive, please come on over and share your reflection with us in our Facebook group for Nature to Nurture. I'll link it down in the show notes. You can share a sentence, you could share a word, or you could even just simply state, "Today, I choose less." Thank you so much for joining me today on Nature to Nurture. I really do hope that each of these conversations help you feel more supported and understood on your parenting or caregiving journey. And if you found value in today's episodes, please don't forget to follow the podcast and hop on over into our free community on Facebook, where we continue to share mini moments, wise words, and genuine support. As we wrap up, I'll leave you with this. Just remember, even on the hardest days, that a small moment of connection can make all of the difference for your child and for you. Until next time, take care, and I'm here with you every step of the way.